All right, so with the NFL schedule slated to come out soon, according to Jim Irsay, Colts owner, soon, not sure how we define that. That's sort of its own inkblot test. Paul Calvisi, Dani, Sureck, Darren Urban. I find myself just giddy with anticipation, waiting to see when the Bears super rookie comes to State Farm Stadium. And Darren, you're asking yourself over there, because I can tell you're deep in thought, or you're ignoring me. It's hard to tell which one. Which super rookie are you talking about, Paulie Pencilneck? And obviously, we could go with the number 1 pick overall, Caleb Williams. We could go with the 9th pick overall, Rome Odunze. And both selections would be wrong, because the Bears rookie that I'm looking forward to seeing the most, especially from field level, Dani Sureck, is the 4th-round selection, the highest drafted punter since 2019, Tory Taylor.
I don't even think I realized they drafted a punter.
I didn't either. And so that's why I'm holding myself accountable off the top.
Where were you guys? Where were you guys on draft weekend? How did you not know this happened?
I saw him up on the screen, but I forgot to get to it here on Cardinals Underground, brought to you by Pacific Office Automation. So it's a bit belated, but, once again, when that guy comes through State Farm Stadium and he's launching footballs up to the rafters as the Ray Guy Award winner, forget about the Heisman that Caleb Williams is bringing to town. It's the Ray Guy Award, okay? And he's said to be the best punter to enter the league since – and you know what? If you guys can name the last punter who was drafted higher than Tory Taylor, not to be confused with old Cal quarterback Troy Taylor in the late 90s. You can look that up.
He was terrible.
He was terrible. And it's the reason why in my lifetime we'll never go to a Rose Bowl. Yet another reason. But if you can name the last punter, you should be very familiar with this punter because he's within the division. There's your hint as to...
I know you're going to find this hard to believe, but I have no guess whatsoever. Nowhere to even start.
The Bears...
Because y'all's trivia is just...
The current Bears
too
coach
far ahead of my time.
Of special teams used to be the Niners coach of special teams. Hence, the connection is the Niners drafted this punter back in 2019 by the name of Mitch Wishnowsky. He went number 10, 110 overall. So there you go. But once again, it's just something about being, maybe it's being on the sideline and you just see the booming punts that, once again, Darren, punters not only are players, they can be weapons, okay? So, put some respect on the punter's name for once.
As John Fox used to say, Paul, punting is not a bad play.
Right. By the way, he has something in common with Ben Graham, as he hails from Australia.
Yep.
And
those Aussie rules football guys.
And just the football gods were watching this particular pick. His girlfriend is from Chicago. And he joked, we're only 7 picks away, honey. In the 4th round, the Bears are going to take me. Even though the Bears had shown no interest, hadn't shown their hand whatsoever. And the Bears picked him. That's the story he told. And boom, they're going to her hometown.
That's a good story.
So how about that?
But he's still a punter, Paul.
Yeah, he's still a punter. So it's move it along. All right, move it along. Let's get to, by the way, speaking of rookies, is it rookie minicamp or just rookie camp? Because I screwed up the whole 30 versus top 30 visit, Darren.
I'm going to go rookie minicamp.
Rookie minicamp.
That's fine, minicamp.
Okay. All right. So we're getting more news here that apparently, according to the NFL Network, that quarterback that we're looking for, because you're looking at the rookie class saying, wait a minute, where's the arm? Are they going to bring in Clayton Tune from last year? Well, it's Taulia Tagovailoa, the younger brother of Tua Tagovailoa. Started at Alabama, then went to Maryland. Didn't get his 6 year of eligibility that he campaigned for, petitioned for. So he was in Seahawks rookie camp last week. By the way, Mike McDonald's going to call the defense and be a rookie head coach. Interesting. That came out of Seahawks rookie camp. We'll get to the NFC West in a little bit. But there's your quarterback, and, that's relevant because who's throwing to Marvin Harrison Jr.?
You got to have somebody throwing it to him. I am impressed, though, for the 20 minutes you put in trying to make sure you could pronounce his name before we got on the air here. That was good.
Why would you call him out like that? Journalistic integrity, Darren. He wants to make sure he gets the name right.
I'm praising him for it. That's a good job because I will not be calling him anything but Tua's younger brother.
Yeah, and let it be noted that's the first and last time that I attempt his full name. Okay, now that I said it once, from now on it's just Tagovailoa. So, because the first name isn't exactly rolling off the tongue.
Wait, one more time, so I can have it in my head.
Taulia
Okay.
Tagovailoa.
Okay, I got it.
And I think he's a righty.
Yes.
Even though Tua's a lefty.
I believe he's a righty.
Okay.
I think I've seen him play in college a couple times. But you're right. Somebody's got to throw to Marvin.
I mean,
somebody's got to throw to all the pass catchers.
And by the way, you probably wouldn't bring in a lefty for rookie camp if all three of your quarterbacks on the main roster are righties, correct? You wouldn't do that to your receivers, would you?
Probably not.
Okay.
I wonder how many undrafted players out here for tryouts in that situation we'll see, because we're only going to see one practice, which is Friday of this rookie minicamp, and practice is a generous word for it because there's no pads, there's no tackling. It's about as basic and fundamental as you can get. So it will be interesting to see the numbers and who's out there and, on top of the rookies that were drafted.
The funny thing is back in the day, and Paul is going to remember this because he was at quite a few of them. I mean, they used to have 50 guys out there, and you would have a full 11-on-11 practice session, and they weren't wearing pads, but they were doing minicamp stuff. And now it's shrunk to the part where it's like we just want to get them on the field and kind of get them acclimated a little bit to the real world playbook before they have to go out there with the veterans.
And you're right. I mean, there's no pads, there's no full contact football. So when you watch the linemen, for example, you're getting zero from that, nothing relevant whatsoever. But would you guys agree that when you're watching the cornerbacks, for example, if a corner is routinely getting toasted and roasted out there during basic drills, one-on-one, usually a pretty bad sign. But early in that rookie camp, I mean, I remember last year, for example, Keitrell Clark competing against Michael Wilson and looking the part.
I'm torn on that a little bit. Like, if you were doing 11-on-11, I know there's no rushing, but at least there's a rhythm and a cadence that simulates football where there's kind of a pass rush and you kind of got to get – when you're just talking about – if you're talking about one-on-one and a guy's just doing one-on-one, I mean, obviously he can't look terrible all the time, but, I mean, that's a tough – when there's no pass rush, that's a tough road to hoe for any defensive back.
So if Max Melton is locking up dudes left and right, I shouldn't be out there just tweeting irresponsibly. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, why would this be any different? Yeah, I was going to say. I like that. That was nice.
Not cool. Totally not cool. When the two-man game doesn't involve me, I don't like it. Don't like it over here.
Quit dribbling into the double team, Paul.
Yeah, okay. All right, we'll get to the rookie camp in a minute. What do we know about the schedule? I mean, what is going on here, Dani?
Paul,
Nothing?
Because it comes from the league in terms of when the schedule
Okay.
release is going to be happening. So, I mean, I don't think it's wrong for me, and Darren will give me eyes if it is, for me to say that we don't know as the time of when this is being recorded of when the schedule release is going to drop, because teams don't have that information yet.
I just thought that you were just going to be more mad. You sound very upset that we don't know this yet.
Me?
Yes.
Here's the thing. I'm not upset that we don't know it. I'm upset that we don't have a date yet set.
That's fair, but I'm going to say, as we record this on Tuesday, that, I mean, the league has shown the last few years that there is a lead time that they let us know. So the fact that we don't know anything right now probably means we're not that close.
Who needs an actual timetable when we have the strength of schedule that came out? Did you see this? So when you don't have the actual schedule itself, you debate the strength of schedule, which actually begs another question based on last week. What's more meaningless / worthless, mock drafts, draft grades, or strength of schedule? Because every year, the opponent's strength changes. Every year, there's so much turnover. Every year, there's a worst to first. There's always 4 new playoff teams historically in each conference. So to me, the whole strength of schedule, even though they put it out there and we read into it, and I'm about to tell you where the Cardinals fall within it. I mean, come on. It's darn near close to draft grades and mock drafts.
Yeah, it's all projections. I would say
no. In this case, it's not even projections. It's based on. No. It's funny. We always hear coaches talk about why are we still talking about last year when that whole stat is based on last year.
So Cleveland has the strongest strength of schedule, the toughest schedule. Baltimore is number 2. They play 10 playoff teams. Pittsburgh number 3. If you see a pattern there, that's because it's the AFC North. Now the Cardinals are in the bottom 4th, 24th in strength of schedule. Cardinals, Seahawks, and Dolphins, 24th in strength of schedule.
I see a GIF coming after that video.
Cardinals, Seahawks, and Dolphins.
So, Dani,
okay.
Dolphins are on the schedule this year.
They are.
Yes, you're cheering that. The 24th ranking in strength of schedule. You like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
You like that.
Okay.
Why would we not?
No, it's true. And then the bottom of the league is the Bears, the Saints, and Falcons. So once again, that's the NFC South at work there. So with the easiest schedules. So, by the way, all right, here's Paulie prop bet. I'm going to throw something else out about the schedule, even though we don't know the schedule itself. If the over-under on primetime games for the Arizona Cardinals was 1.5,
Really?
would you go over or under on primetime games this season?
I'm going to go over.
I will go over.
I think it's going to be 2.
Me too.
I wouldn't be surprised if we're back on a schedule for a Thursday or a Monday. I don't know about both, and I wouldn't be surprised about a Sunday.
I don't think it'll be a Sunday, but I think there's going to be a Monday and a Thursday.
Okay, edit that out. If the number was 2.5, would you go over or under on primetime games?
Under. I would stick with 2.
You're going to get a Thursday night
I'm
game.
stay under. Well, we didn't get one last year.
No, this year you'll get one. This one, remember, it was
What do you know?
It was a 2000.
Yeah,
it was.
he talks about stuff like he knows, right?
What
It
do
was a
you know?
2023 dip for a 2024 rip. That's what I've been telling you guys for a while now. And by the way, in my opinion, Calvisi consulting the Paulie Pigskin division, and I've talked to Roger Goodell, interviewed him one-on-one twice in the last 18 months, so I think I have a pretty good sense of this. If you would have had your starting quarterback from the get-go last year, I think you would have received a Thursday night game. I believe that. So I think the Thursday night is a given, and then you're going to get another primetime game. The question is...
So you really screwed this premise up.
So is the league looking at the Cardinals saying, now, wait a minute, a 12-player draft class and Kyler is back, and look at the way they finished last year, and Marvin Harrison Jr., there's a lot to like, there's a lot to feature in primetime, especially if you put them early in the season. Okay, maybe you safeguard it a little bit. They get some early primetime games. I'm inclined to go with 3.
I'm going with 2. My answer has not changed.
Same. I'm going to go 2,
Okay.
but we differ on that. I think one's going to be on a Sunday.
Okay. All right, I'm the dealingist right now. After Monty Austin-Ford out of the war room, yours truly is a dealingist. Now, what could I interest you guys in an international game? What have I said?
Depends where.
2 primetime games, Cardinals and Vikings in London. Haven't been to London since 17, obviously, but not really hearing, just more of a venerable gut feel, if you will, that I do believe the Cardinals are still in the mix for that international game in London. Germany, not so much.
I would agree. I think also when you look at the Panthers' schedule, who are the home team in Germany, I mean, it's realistic to say that there are a lot more desirable opponents internationally than just where the Cardinals are at. Some just really big names, you know what I mean? Like just the brands themselves. I just feel like it would make most sense if the Cardinals do have an international game that it would be London against the Vikings. It also seems like the league likes the Cardinals and Vikings considering how often they've played, the joint practices in the past. I would feel the same way if the gut feeling if Arizona does go international, it feels like it would be London.
And Germany is red hot in terms of desirability among NFL teams. Remember, they had 1 million fans in queue when they opened up ticket sales on their version of Ticketmaster. Just insane. That's why Roger Goodell, after he saw that, said, well, we're doing 1 game this year to debut. We're definitely doing 2 next year, and who knows beyond that, because the appetite for NFL football in Germany is just off the hook. So a lot of teams are coveting, and there's a lot of competition for Germany. And since the Cardinals have had their share of international games somewhat recently, okay, I could see where, yeah, London, a lot of teams have been there and done that. Cardinals, I mean, Darren, you tell me. With the exception of the game itself, your debut against Sean McVay in 2017, everything else about that week in London I thought was stellar.
I agree. I think that was a fabulous trip for the organization. You know, what that means if they went back there, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to automatically assume that they would spend an entire week. Some teams have changed up after they go back a second time, and they go a week and then they go just for the weekend.
Yep.
Our boss, Surf, who was with Miami when they went to London 3 times, they went out on Fridays. Now, again, Miami is a lot closer to London than Phoenix is, but
even the Rams in 17 bombed in on a Friday.
Yeah,
they came in at the end of the week, and they looked fresher. I don't know if that had anything to do with anything, but I mean,
well, they look better.
Yeah,
I don't know if they look fresher. Didn't help that Carson Palmer broke his arm.
It's true. That is true. You're right. It was tough sitting in. You're at Heathrow. We're going through customs to get on the plane. There's a 14-hour flight in front of us, and standing behind me is your franchise quarterback with a broken arm. That was sort of a low moment at that point. But I
can't tell if that's a humble brag or not.
No, we're all in it. We're all there, Darren. You were there. You saw.
I wasn't there.
Of course, you could see Carson Palmer standing next to me. Are you kidding me? It's like, I look like his 12-year-old son. So here's the thing that I remember about that game, though. Speaking of Sean McVay, thanks for asking. Is the fans were uncertain at times when to cheer. So it was really quiet at times. Quiet enough where after the game and that whole next week, Cardinals defenders said they could hear Sean McVay blaring out the ear holes of Jared Goff's helmet. Like barking out like until there's 15 seconds left on the play clock because they are going up tempo and getting on the ball. And he's barking out not only the play, but he's barking out cover 2, go to the Z, or he's just calling out like his reads through the ear holes. That's how quiet it was at times because fans were just uncertain of when to react and when to make noise. So, but it's always an interesting. But once again, I think at this point, Cardinals are definitely in play for that international game. But the fact we haven't heard a little more noise about it probably says otherwise, right? Don't you think there might have been a little more out there if indeed that was tracking to be the case?
Maybe, but I haven't heard any noise about any of it. And to Dani's point, we don't know anything about the schedule, so who knows what's going on. Maybe they're not going to release it until June. Probably not, but maybe.
Yeah. By the way, have you looked at the Cardinals' home schedule, and have you noticed how the Cardinals get all 3 of the top quarterbacks, all 3 of the top draft picks? They get Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May. The
really?
top 3 draft picks
Washington
are all coming to the AZ. Plus, you're going to get Aaron Rodgers. Plus, you're going to get Justin Herbert.
Plus, you're going to get Cliff Kingsbury.
That's right.
Is this where you want to put out the ticket number?
Yes. No, I guess I could, but I'm so...
azcardinals.com/tickets.
I'm anticipating the schedule to such a degree. I started looking at the opponents again, and I'll be honest with you, 3 months ago, I was a little underwhelmed by the opponents. Now, it's really intriguing.
So, I mean, if we're looking at the opponents going back to primetime games, I mean, doesn't Cardinals-Jets scream primetime? Does it not?
No.
I know that, the last time with, Rodgers was obviously with the Packers, that dreaded Thursday night game. Sorry to bring that up, everybody. I would think that would be one of the better options for a primetime game.
I agree.
The thing is about the Jets, though, I think they're going to be very popular for primetime games. So, I mean, you could probably go down the whole schedule. Who knows who else the Jets play.
Fair.
By the way, last year, I'm looking for it, in terms of primetime games, the high number was 7. One team got 7 primetime games in it. Lose me here. It was not Kansas City. Oh, it was the Bills. Bills got 7 primetime games last year.
Wow.
So I thought the max was 6. I don't know how they ended. I guess that was
maybe they had one at the end of the season.
Misremembered by yours truly. So once again, before we move off the schedule, I just like to say a small prayer to the schedule gods. No Miami in September, and please no Green Bay and Buffalo in December, January. If you can just make that happen for us, we'd appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
We will, by the way, have a special Cardinals Underground when it's Miami in September and Green Bay and Buffalo in December, and just talk about Paul's impending doom.
Yeah, no.
Well, here's the thing. If it's in December and it's around Christmas or Christmas Eve, when we have to shuffle things around, it's usually not Paul who's on the sidelines for those games, Darren.
True, but I will also say that I think when we went to Green Bay in 2018 with the great Josh Rosen, the let's get Mike McCarthy fired game.
That's right.
It was November, I think, and it was bitterly cold. I remember doing the pregame Facebook show and barely being able to talk after about 10 minutes.
I know I'm going to regret saying this, so I'm going to try and choose my words carefully. I have never been to Lambeau. I've never been to Buffalo. So just going, Darren's got this smirk on his face. How do I say this? I feel like just going is a fun experience to get to see and experience those, the atmosphere. I'm not saying that I hope it's in late November through December, But I am, on this beautiful day in May, excited at the opportunities ahead to go to Green Bay and Buffalo.
All right, here's the question for Paul. What would be worse, Green Bay in December or Miami in September?
Oof.
You know, I've survived Green Bay in December before. Most recently, the Josh Rosen, who had his keister saved by the 3rd and 19 catch by Larry Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
Ridiculous first down catch that enabled the Cardinals to win that game. And before we left the tarmac, you're right, the Packers head coach Mike McCarthy was fired. No, the probably the worst games, well, the snow game in New England once upon a time, the Super Bowl run, that was really bad. But otherwise, yeah, Jacksonville in week 2 a couple years ago. There was a Jacksonville week 3 about 10 years ago. And then the last time we went to Miami, it was absolutely coming down in sheets.
Yeah, I remember that.
For about 2 hours.
And that's the thing. Like in Miami, you could get nailed with horrible rain, or you could be in hot humidity and melt.
It's not as bad, but still Carolina's on the schedule.
That's true.
So
You're
Carolina
right.
in September could also be not enjoyable.
And
It could be pretty cold if it's late in the season too.
It was chilly. It wasn't late in the season when we went 2 years ago, but I remember it was colder than we had all expected.
So basically, Paul's screwed.
All right, let's move this along here, okay? When the Cardinals go, and by the way, I do recommend the Lambeau trip if you're a Cardinals fan. You're looking to make one road trip this year. My buddies have done Lambeau in the past, and they're very accommodating to visiting fans. But that Midwest charm is in play, as opposed to like, don't wear your Cardinals jersey into an Eagles game if you're going to Philadelphia, okay? You would never do that. But Lambeau's one place you can get away with it, and you'll be welcomed by the locals. Buffalo, I'm not so sure. Probably depends on how many folding tables they've busted pregame at that point.
Oh, that would be fun.
Do you think Zay Jones will be on the roster going to Green Bay or Buffalo or Miami? There's my segue into the Cardinals roster evolution, which continues reportedly that Zay Jones has been in for a visit.
I don't know. On the roster, it's hard because they also signed some undrafted rookie free agents, or one, I believe, right after the draft.
Xavier Weaver out of Colorado was the undrafted rookie free agent, who, by the way, they gave big money, over $250,000 guaranteed, more than they gave any undrafted guy a year ago.
Yeah,
so you also addressed it in free agency.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, the question is, to me, is whether it's Zay Jones or not, like, is this team, does it need a veteran wide receiver?
I'd say yes. Now, do you want to get a look at what you have in rookie camp? And even if it looks good, how much can you count on that? I mean, Darren, how many years have guys flashed in August, and then you get to the regular season, everything's different?
True,
So,
but how many times we could also say how many times has this team signed a veteran wide receiver and they've done nothing?
Yeah.
One name just pops into my mind is Michael Crabtree. I know that was training camp, but
Kevin White a few years ago.
Kevin White.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just because you're signing a veteran doesn't mean you're going to get anything out of it.
I get it, but Kevin White was pretty much a bust at that point, and Michael Crabtree had already fallen out with a few other teams. Zay Jones was most definitely a cap hit. Jacksonville saved nearly $11 million by letting him go. He was a second-round pick in 2017, so he's still in his prime. But I do think they're looking for another veteran receiver at the right price. Just like I'm wondering if they're looking for another veteran corner at the right price. In fact, I took a quick look at the top 100 NFL free agents. There are 13 left who have gone unsigned.
Wide receivers, you mean?
No, just the top.
13 of the top 100.
You know, NFL.com has the top 101
okay.
free agents.
My bad.
13 are left. 4 of those 13 are corners, are veteran corners. So whether it's Akello Witherspoon, the Rams' top corner a year ago, who they didn't re-sign, age 29, and he made just over $1 million a year ago. Adoree Jackson, who was with the Giants, and apparently Wink Martindale just put him on an island all the time, and he got torched more often than he'd care to remember. But Adoree Jackson's out there. Steven Nelson is out there. We saw him when the Cardinals played Houston. I think he played 16 or 17 games. I looked that up previously. And then you have Stephon Gilmore is out there. I'm guessing he's going to try and command more money. But, I mean, there are at least 3 legitimate prices right veteran cornerbacks who are out there.
So you think they need a receiver and a corner?
I would not be surprised if they went after both. So when I saw Zay Jones, absolutely makes sense. Let him compete, bring him in. You have a proven guy, and then I think at corner, I'd be real curious to see if they do that as well.
And he's big too, right? He's like
6'2".
6'2"?
Yes.
Yeah, he fits what they want.
I see receiver more than I see cornerback. I don't understand spending the draft capital you have that you did on cornerbacks and say, let's bring in another veteran that could essentially stunt their growth. I mean, how many cornerbacks are you going to keep on this roster?
True. And last year, I mean, they played with Starling Thomas and Keitrell Clark.
And let's put those
and
guys.
Bobby Price. I get that.
Let's put those guys aside for a minute. They got Murphy Bunting, and they've now spent 3 third-round picks the last 2 years on cornerbacks. That's 4 cornerbacks right there.
True.
Like,
yep.
I don't know if I mean, unless you already don't like Garrett Williams, which I don't see that.
You're keeping 4 corners at least, maybe 5, depending. So.
Well, but see, I also think that Rabbit can probably play nickel if you needed him to.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I could see a receiver. The cornerback thing, that would definitely scream to me, let's see what we got in training camp before we go adding another veteran who is on the street for a reason right now, by the way.
And honestly, when we get to the rookie camp, I mean, to my point earlier about watching the corners, I just think you can get an initial read on a corner, just how they do in these rookie camps, that it's not completely worthless in terms of assessing. And the guy that I'm real curious to see as well is Elijah Jones, the final third-round pick out of Boston College, 6'1.5", tons of experience. Dave Sears spoke glowingly of him on the Big Red Rage, Cardinals assistant GM. So he's sort of an unknown right in the middle of this draft class. I don't think he's gotten a lot of attention.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like even Darius Robinson as a first-round pick hasn't gotten a lot of attention just because he was the second first-round pick.
True.
I agree. We're not going to see a lot, but when it comes to a cornerback and the light drills I expect us to see on Friday, you can still get a feel for their fluidity and moving their hips and their speed, right, and tracking the ball, and you're going to see at least enough, right? At least enough for kind of hold the fans over a little until we start to get to that next push of practices.
I think one of the things about Elijah Jones, why he's been in the background, is because he was the 7th pick of the Cardinals draft. He was the 5th pick of that day. It was a long day. I mean, it was easy for him to kind of fall through the cracks, and then you come back the next day and you're already in the 4th round and you're already talking about, okay, what might happen.
So are you saying the Cardinals senior writer on that day was exhausted by the time his name was called, and you didn't have as much of a chance to...
And you're calling Paul and myself out about not knowing the Bears drafted a punter?
No, I'm well aware they drafted Elijah Jones.
He didn't get commensurate coverage because you were exhausted at that point on azcardinals.com? Is that what you're saying, Darren? I mean,
weren't you the one who said he fell through the crack? How much have you talked about Elijah Jones there, Paulie?
That's right, okay. By the way, going back to Darius Robinson.
You want to sign a veteran cornerback and just shove Elijah Jones to the background.
No, I look, compete, okay? I am curious what they think of last year's corner class, though, based on the fact they went after 3 corners in this class. Where are they with Keitrell Clark and Starling Thomas and some of the other Devad Wilson, Bobby Price, some of these other young guys? I mean, that's going to be an ultra competitive room. That cornerback. I mean, how many did you say? 11 right now are on the roster?
Something
11.
I'd have
I think
to look,
that's what Craig Grialou said earlier. So, as for Darius Robinson, it was interesting to hear Dave Sears in the Big Red Rage talk about, the motor definitely stands out, his versatility. These are Dave Sears' words now. He basically played every spot at Missouri. We see him more with his hand in the dirt as a D lineman. But in certain packages, he could be in a 2-point stance. Still has the ability, if desired, to add weight, right? Because he's so long and athletic at 6'5", 285. Guy who didn't start playing football until his junior year in high school. And so, okay. And then we talked about this a little bit. Nick Rallis and his ability to be creative and use different defensive linemen in different ways in different game situations. I mean, I am curious to see how they dial up Darius Robinson, especially when you have 2 established veterans in Justin Jones and Bilal Nichols. Maybe he is a sort of X factor out there.
I agree. I think that versatility, as much of a buzzword as that's been, of kind of thinking like, are they just saying this? Darius Robinson really does have that versatility, and he's proven that and what he's been able to do in college. Considering the rotation that this staff likes to have on the D-line and moving players around, I would absolutely believe that this staff and this front office could see Robinson being used in multiple different spots. I think coming in to a room where you have such seasoned veterans like Bilal Nichols and Justin Jones, who were added in free agency, you've got LJ Collier in that room, someone like Adante Stills going into year 2. It feels like there's a lot of good a lot of presence in there to help him also grow in this year and figure out, how to carry over his skill sets.
I do think, like Dani said, I feel like he's been overlooked a little bit because of the timing of when it was picked and everything that happened and the understandable excitement over Marvin Harrison. I get that too. But again, this is a position that they really needed, and I'm intrigued by that whole group. And you talk about competition. I will say it does feel a little bit cliche when coaches talk about we want competition in that room, we want competition in this other room. But it does feel like there is going to be a lot of that. And that, in theory, is going to raise the play of these guys as they battle for jobs. There's not a lot of guys where you're sitting there saying he's absolutely on the team. I mean, I'm guessing Bilal Nichols and Justin Jones are automatically on this team, but beyond that, and Darius Robinson will be on this team. But
well, think about it. He was the second interior defensive lineman selected in this draft. Byron Murphy II went 16th overall to the stinking Seahawks, right? So now all of a sudden Darius Robinson. And then what's interesting too is high in round 2, what did the Rams do? They got Braden Fisk. So they got Jared Verse in round 1, Braden Fisk in round 2. So that's going to be curious to track all of these guys along the defensive front among all 3 teams in the NFC West.
Trying to replace Aaron Donald.
Yep.
there you go.
And you know what? After they got Byron Young and Kobe Turner last year on that defensive front, I mean, the Rams low-key have had a real good defensive line draft trying to account for Aaron Donald, which, by the way, we don't need to hear those reports that he might come back if needed towards the end of the year.
I did not see that.
Yes. And then J.J. Watt jumped in. Well, if the Texans need me, I might be available
He
at the end of the season.
He certainly didn't say no, did he?
No, he didn't. No. So he made it known that he's keeping in shape. And so just in case. And D'Amico Ryans actually commented on it like their charity golf tournament that he has J.J. Watt's number. So there you go. But see, I don't know if the Cardinals ever thought about calling J.J. Watt last year, but when you were down at the very end of the season and you had a cast of guys off the practice squad that no one had ever heard of. So it is nice starting this year with a reinforced defensive line room, put it that way, right?
Yes. I mean, they needed overhaul. Although, to your point there, I'm guessing J.J. Watt wouldn't be returning the Texans' calls at this point if they weren't playoff material.
It's true. You're right on that one. By the way, the player also that hasn't got a lot of run, Isaiah Adams, the offensive lineman out of Illinois. And I like what Dave Sears, the assistant GM, had to say about this guy. Quote, he's a mauler. We're looking for grimy offensive linemen who will put your face in the dirt. He's that kind of guy who's a finisher. So, Dani, I think you pointed out early last year how there's a pattern in the sort of receiver the Cardinals have been targeting, right? 6 foot and above. There definitely seems to be a pattern in the sort of offensive and defensive linemen the Cardinals are going after.
Yeah, the game is won and lost in the trenches. You want some, I don't know.
You can say it. It's not the Tom Brady roast, but you can let it fly.
Was it Justin Jones, right, or Bilal Nichols? Which one said that they want to be some bad mofos on that line? That's what you need on both sides of the line.
We can get Craig Grillo in here to pinch hit with that phrase if you want. That'd be good. That'd be good. By the way, this is a hard right turn, but the whole Tom Brady roast, was his mom really in attendance? I mean,
I have not seen it.
I wince.
I put it on the back half.
At the prospect of Tom Brady's mom being in attendance for those 3 hours.
Right? There's no way.
Oh, my God. No, apparently his parents were there. And whoever advised Kim Kardashian to show up.
Yikes.
Ouch. Yeah, that was rough. So, yeah.
When a lot of strays out there at the roast.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Gronk took a beat down. Kim Kardashian took a beat down.
Bill Belichick.
Yeah. Robert Kraft, before Tom told the comedian to change his game plan. So, yeah, that was, for anyone who ever wonders, that's pretty much the locker room personified on steroids, except televised to a global audience.
Why would you? I know they're obviously paying you a lot of money. Why would you ever want to be roasted? Ever?
Okay.
I can barely handle it when Dani gets on my case.
Exactly. And I'm not paying you.
No.
I mean, did it go to charity or did it go to the Tom Brady Foundation, i.e., like his own pocket? Like, what was the motivation for that? Why would you subject yourself to that for 3 hours?
You're mistaking me for somebody who would actually know this.
Come on, Darren. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Did you see the joke though about Deflategate?
I did.
Tom Brady pretty much said, if you guys were going to spend $20 million on that, you could have just given it to me and I would have said whatever you wanted me to say.
Right. That's right. So maybe that's my segue into the $13 million plus that the Cardinals declined on Zaven Collins. Is that a segue right there as we get?
It is when you're that professional, Paul.
No. Not a surprise, right? Not a surprise.
Nope.
I mean, look, every player and almost every year, it's the NFL. Everybody now, it's prove it every single week of every single year. But for Zaven Collins, they want to see how this transition is going to turn out in year number 2 of going from inside to outside linebacker.
I think that's fair. Give him another full offseason, a full year of making that transition. We saw sparks. We have heard from multiple coaches, multiple coaching staffs, just how intelligent Zaven Collins is and his physical abilities naturally and how much work he puts in. This is not his 5th-year option wasn't declined because the staff doesn't think that he has the heart or the desire, right, or the motivation or the focus by any means. You just need to see, is it worth how much they would have had to spend, which I believe, Darren, in your mailbagger article would have been, what, $13 million?
I think it was 13.2 if they would have picked
guaranteed to pay that next year. So this makes a lot of sense. I'll like also on top of it believe when general manager Monty Austin-Fort has said that they like what they have seen in Zaven and that they want him here in the future. I think both of those things can be true of still needing to see that jump and still needing what we have heard of the smarts and the IQ that Zaven has and how meticulous and attentive to the details he is kind of meshing those to the point where he's just reacting. He's not thinking throughout a play. He's just able to react and go do what he does best. There's a lot of players around the league. It really feels more common than not to not have had a 5th-year option picked up this year.
It's true. It does seem to be more the norm than the exception. And your point about him being a high IQ guy, football and otherwise, maybe working against him. Wasn't it Jonathan Gannon in Florida made that comment?
Jonathan Gannon's, I think, made that comment a few times about how Zaven tends to think too much. But yeah, he specifically said it in Florida at the owners' meetings that, you know, sometimes Zaven just needs to kind of get out of his own way.
And you know what? After 2 years as an inside linebacker and having to call the defense and then react to what the offense is doing and make all the checks, I mean, he was playing the quarterback of the defense. He was in a thinking man's position. So now you move positions, you move places on the defensive front, but you're still thinking the game at a high degree. So, okay, let's see. In a contract year, a prove-it year, with his size and speed and his athletic ability, if he just decides out of desperation and urgency just to let her rip, I mean, I'm here for that. I'm curious to see what that looks like for Zaven Collins. It kind of reminds me, going back to the Tom Brady roast, the comedian who was giving Gronk a hard time about, she started out and said, well, you know, Tom Brady lost some $30 million in crypto. There's your Bitcoin bingo card for you, Dani, right there, the crypto mention. And she said, I mean, Tom, what are you doing? Even Gronk, me Gronk, no, not real money, right? She made him sound like a Neanderthal with her impersonation of Gronk. Well, Zaven's like the exact opposite, right? I mean, this high IQ guy, but sometimes you got to be Gronk and just let her rip like a Neanderthal and just go, right? And spike the football. That's, you know, sometimes that might work to your benefit. So I don't know.
Boy.
Here's what you do. You take Zaven, you bring him to the D-line room, and you just start, you know, put some hieroglyphics up there, you know, some caveman stuff. Just, you know, that's what you need to do. He probably wouldn't think that's too funny, actually.
Yeah, probably not.
Don't tell him I said that. Don't tell him I said that. All right, I will. He's got a cool classic car, though. I'll compliment him on that.
Yeah, the two of you bonded over that.
That's right. He's like,
I hosted the Big Red Rage when it was Zaven last year.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
And like talking
Did he
about on
drive it
air and
out
then
there?
no,
That's
but
right.
talking on air and then in between
Yeah.
commercials, they were bonding over that.
I'll, that's duly noted, Dani, that you remember it that well. So that tells you how
I
sick
don't
and
think
tired
Zaven was
you were
impressed with
hearing
my
it.
Mazda.
That's good. So, okay, we got that. Zaven, what else has been news here as okay, Kyler's been in the news because you see Kyler above and beyond just the off-season activities at Cardinals headquarters, right? The Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center. I mean, Darren, run this down. Where has Kyler been spotted, and what has he been up to? Because you're the one who's been tracking this on social media.
Well, I mean, we've seen a few clips out of him. He's apparently been working out at Scottsdale Saguaro High School, and we saw one a couple weeks ago where he's actually throwing to some of his guys. I think that was before Phase 2 got underway, if I recall correctly, because again, these guys are only allowed to do so much on the field in terms of throwing the ball at certain points. And even now, they only get to be in the building for X amount of hours per day / per week. So it's not like even if a guy wanted to be here all day working out, he can't do that.
I forgot about that. There's a ceiling? There's a max?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
I mean, otherwise they'd be afraid that coaches would ask them to voluntarily be here 40 hours a week.
So that's why, like a couple of years ago, you saw Kyler bring guys to Texas. We've seen Patrick Mahomes bring guys to Texas.
I mean, some of that has to do with doing it in off time. Like, for instance, after minicamp is over, before training camp, there's some dead time that you might want to do it. But in this case, I think they just get in some extra work. And there's a clip that's out there now, not only of him throwing to Trey McBride and some of the receivers, but also him working out there. And there was some construction workers out there at the high school. And obviously Kyler said hello to them and threw a pass to one of them, took a picture with one of them. So, I mean, it's nice to see him kind of engaging with people outside in the fan realm. But it also kind of underscores to me, again, how much he's doing stuff. And yeah, at one point somebody saw the video and said, oh, why wouldn't he just work out with his own guys 10 miles down the road? He's doing both. And he's doing both quite a bit. I mean, he's here all the time. He really is. And I've seen him a few times myself. And so, I mean, he's putting in the work, and I'm sure he's thrilled to be actually doing football stuff and not rehab stuff.
All right, so here's the question everybody's asking. Everyone in Red Sea, all right, Bird Gang is wondering. When's the first time we're going to see Kyler throw a pass to Marvin Harrison Jr.? When? Can somebody give me a date? When is that going to happen exactly? We don't know the NFL schedule, but do we know the practice schedule? When will Kyler throw a pass to Marvin Harrison Jr.?
I mean, it will probably be Monday or Tuesday of next week.
Okay. Because rookie camp then morphs into Phase 3?
No, we're still in Phase 2.
God dang it.
But they
get it wrong.
They can throw passes.
Okay. All right. So then the rookies can join the veterans effective Monday.
Well, here's the follow-up question. What number is Marvin Harrison Jr. wearing, Darren?
Oh, Dani, now, okay. Well, she went for the third rail there.
I have no idea. You'll have to ask Marvin that.
Darren, how many forms of that question have you received in
Not
the mailbag? Another prop bet. What's the over-under on some form of that Marvin Harrison Jr. number question that you've received in the mailbag?
In the mailbag?
Yeah,
it's only been a handful.
Really?
Yeah, but okay. I've gotten a bunch on Twitter, but there's nothing to report. Like people will know when there's something to report. And the thing is he could pick. He's going to have a number for rookie minicamp, but it very well might not be the number that he ends up with.
Right, because B.J. Ojulari does not seem like he's given up 18.
I wonder if there are fierce negotiations going on behind the scenes. Somebody needs to look into that. I wonder.
I vote you, Paul.
I'll do that right after I pose the following question. Darren accused me earlier of stirring it up at times. Okay, so what I need to do, I used to do this back in the day, I'm going to bring a big old soup spoon out here, right? And when I have this question that might be apt to stir things up, I'll break out the soup spoon because the question goes something like this. Is it realistic to think that Marvin Harrison Jr. will have a sudden impact, an instant impact along the lines of what we saw by Justin Jefferson in 2020 as a rookie and Jamar Chase in 2021 as a rookie? And I did the legwork so you don't have to. Justin Jefferson in 2020, Dani, as a rookie, 88 catches for an even 1,400 yards receiving, 7 touchdowns, and a Pro Bowl. Jamar Chase the following year as a rookie, 81 grabs for 1,455 yards, 13 touchdowns, a Pro Bowl, and Offensive Rookie of the Year. Are we out of line to throw Marvin Harrison Jr. somewhere in that neighborhood when it comes to expectations?
I don't think so. Based on what he did on such a consistent level in college and just the skill set and the size and the ability that we've seen so far in his career, I don't think so. And you pair that with a quarterback that has the strength and the accuracy and the abilities that Kyler does, I think that's a really great pairing as well. And then you've added some really great blockers, and you still got other receivers that are going to allow Marvin Harrison Jr. to be open. I mean, let's not forget that Trey McBride is going to demand a lot of attention right off the bat. That's going to be a big target as well. So it's not like Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be the only player worth blocking for these defenses. I mean, Michael Wilson, there's going to be enough other threats to where I feel like Marvin is going to be open.
I don't think it's terrible to have expectations. I don't know if he's going to be that impactful with how they're going to play offense and who else they have around them. I could be wrong.
Because they did have a top 5 run game last year.
Yeah.
And most of last year it was run first.
Yes. So I mean, I'm not saying he won't have 1,000 yards. I don't know if I'd be looking for him to have 1,400 yards and 13 touchdowns. That might be a little much. And we're talking just, I mean, as a rookie, I mean, again, we're not playing video games, and we're not, we don't know exactly how this is going to play out and what it's going to look like. And we also don't know, like, I know Dani was talking about, Trey McBride getting attention. Are we assuming Trey McBride's going to get the attention and not Marvin Harrison Jr.? I mean, there might be teams that just decide out of the box, we're not going to let this guy beat us. Don't know.
I just like when we had him in this radio studio, and Marvin Harrison Jr., when Craig Grillo asked him, how much of your father's game is in yours? And he immediately said a lot. And then it reminded me of what Monty Ossenford said on draft night, that he's a bigger receiver who runs routes like a smaller receiver. Because, he runs routes like his dad, except he's much taller. And he has a much bigger frame and a bigger target area for his quarterback. So, and then I followed up by asking him, look, we all know there's pressure with having that Harrison Jr. on the back of your jersey, as you see right there. And he admitted as much. But I then asked him, how much does that drive you? How much has it driven you over your career? And he said, absolutely. It's completely driven me to try and match or exceed my dad's exploits. So when we inevitably brought up Larry Fitzgerald, guess what? Marvin Harrison Jr. is used to that. He's been there and done that. So you can make all the Fitz comparisons you want. His dad's a Hall of Famer, just like Larry will be real soon. So I just, that combined with the fact that he had to walk into Ohio State, and I know I might have mentioned this, but I'm going to say it again because he added a name. When I said you went in as a true freshman, you competed against Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave and Jackson Smith and Jigba, all first-round picks, and he threw out there, and don't forget Jamison Williams, who was at Ohio State.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then transferred to Alabama. 4 first-rounders, 5 if you include Marvin Harrison Jr. as a true freshman, and he said there was a board up in the receiver room. They tracked catches, targets, drops. Said you didn't want to be last on that board. So you talk about 5 guys pushing each other, all of whom ended up being first-round picks in the NFL. And all those guys had, now Jamison Williams was hurt to begin his rookie year, missed his entire rookie year. But, I mean, those are guys who had instant impact as well. So I'm curious if he is indeed wide receiver 1, like Justin Jefferson was. Justin Jefferson was in Minnesota, like Jamar Chase was with Cincinnati. And I most definitely see the possibility of him putting up big numbers like that, especially if last year's cram it vertical was by necessity. To what degree did Drew Petzing say last year, you know what, we don't have our franchise quarterback. In fact, we didn't even have our quarterback during training camp, right? We didn't have him during practice in August. We just brought in Josh Dobbs after moving away from Colt McCoy at the end of August. We had 8 practices to get him ready for the regular season. How much of the Cardinals' offense was by necessity instead of by design? Are you going to see a much more balanced offense this year?
We might. And maybe that is it. Maybe it was just, maybe all the running was about playing keep away because you knew your defense wasn't that good. I don't know.
Yeah. Or your franchise quarterback got his first reps with his receivers in the middle of the regular season. How's he supposed to develop chemistry? So now if you have the entire offseason, okay. I mean, coaches aren't going to call something they don't trust. So they're going to have to see it. And if they do see it materialize in the offseason and through training camp and the preseason, then, hey, maybe this is going to be much more of an aerial attack than we ever thought.
I also feel like, I don't have the numbers in front of me, it just felt like the Cardinals struggled in the red zone. And so you'd have to just kind of rely on the run game a lot there. I would expect that to be different when you have Harrison out there. And I would expect him to be your main target.
Yeah. And especially, here's one area where Kyler was really good his first couple years. And I don't have the numbers to back this up. This is a gut feeling. So you guys tell me if I'm off base or not, and I know you will. Kyler is a weapon in the red zone with his legs. Like we saw it famously 2 years ago, week 2 in Vegas, obviously. But I think there's still more potential there. There's more under the hood. Kyler in the red zone, just tuck it and run it.
And you think why they didn't do as much of it last year because of the knee?
Yes. And I think, to Dani's point, maybe there weren't enough weapons taking enough of the defense's attention away. You know, once you have to put a linebacker, you're forced to put a linebacker on Kyler as some sort of spy. Well, game over. He's beating that linebacker to the pylon, right? What Drew Petzing told the media the other day. The one thing that I found out about Kyler field level during the game was, wow, he's faster than I thought he was. And it is true. When you watch him field level during a game, you're like, oh, man, he can scoot. This isn't just a fast quarterback. This is a fast player for a corner or a receiver. Like, it's legit 4.3 speed. So that's one thing that I remember when Kyler was drafted number 1 overall in 2019. We just envisioned him as being unstoppable in the red zone, the ability to run or pass. And I still think there's more to be developed there and featured there in terms of his scheme.
Yeah, although he looked pretty much that in early 2021 when things were clicking.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. 7-0, 10-2. You're right. There have been flashes, no doubt about that. So, but yeah, it was great to see the whole, going up to the construction workers and greeting them, and just the look on the construction worker's face. Like, okay, this is really happening. Here's Kyler Murray, and just chopping it up with him a little bit. So. All right, so there's my answer. Kyler to Marvin Harrison Jr. effective early next week, which might be about the same time we get the NFL schedule. So there's that.
One can hope, Paul.
We'll see.
Why'd you have to pull that scab there, Paul?
We'll see.
One can hope.
Yeah. So, all right, anything else you guys are looking for during this rookie camp that's front burner? Anyone else, anything else that you want to see that's intriguing? I mean, come on now. Is there a name out here, that you're like, okay, I want to see this guy in person? For example, I'll go with Xavier Weaver out of Colorado, the undrafted rookie receiver. I want to see him. I want to see Tajon Palmer, the 6th rounder out of UAB.
You're already trying to push them out of jobs by signing a veteran.
Hey, nothing wrong with competition, and practice squad could be a possibility for either guy. Look, it's the reality of the NFL. Look, young man, every year your GM is going to try and replace you. That's just the way it works. It's his job to evolve and improve the entire roster.
I'd like to see Trey Benson. I know he's not going to be running through defenses, but how's he look carrying the rock? Mm-hmm. And also a first look at Tip Reiman, the tight end of not only blocking drills, but like let's see where is the starting point of him as a receiver.
Yeah. It's I want to see. I mean, it's 6'5", 271. And he runs a 4.6 40. Yeah, just want to see that. Even in shorts and a T-shirt, let's just see that guy. What's it look like out there? Because, Darren, I'm just warning you right now, with Tip Reiman, if he's everything that Wolf expects him to be, embrace yourself, Red Sea, for, Wolf going, crazy over Tip Reiman. We might have to dust off our old word, jack stomp. It just seems fitting with Tip Reiman, jack stomp. We'll see if he delivers it.
I hope somebody warns Tip about Wolf.
Once again, Paul, you can add that to your to-do list.
Will Tip be wearing a neck roll?
So I was filling in a Wolf's radio show about a month ago, and they brought Trey McBride on because he was fresh off the USO trip to Poland. It's March. And Wolf asked him, what's your weight at? And it just, I don't know.
He doesn't ask like a radio guy. He's asking like an irritated coach, right?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Where's your weight?
I don't know. I really, at this point, I don't know what the motivation is. I just don't get it.
Are you ready to block down on that defensive lineman right now?
So, oh my goodness. So, okay. I'm looking here at anything else in terms of, by the way, did I tell you what Kyle Vandenbosch said about Tip Reiman and just the style with which Tip Reiman plays and the position that Kyle Vandenbosch used to play? And he was known as playing with an edge, a little bit surly.
A little bit.
And he said, oh, yeah, there would be a lot of camp fights. Me and Tip Reiman, I can tell you right now. I said, what, how many? 3? He's like, 3 in a day. Forget 3 in camp. So we'll see. We'll see if anybody, gets irked and all of a sudden rooting and a tooting, whomping and a stomping, Tip Reiman against player to be named later. That's the early prop bet on who's most likely to get into a camp fight at this point.
I feel Will Hernandez again against one of these new D linemen.
Yeah.
Taking the low-hanging fruit,
true.
Dani.
Yeah, I am.
Well, that's true. I mean, Will engaged J.J. Watt once upon a time,
Yeah.
2 years ago.
I feel like Bilal
Yeah.
Nichols or Justin Jones
Okay.
and a Will Hernandez.
Yeah. All right, well, final word goes to Eli Manning, I guess, who sent out a tweet, quote, I thought about attending the roast of Tom Brady last night, but I did not want to roast him for a third time. Eli Manning, well done and well said, as we are just merely pawns waiting for the release of the NFL schedule here on Cardinals Underground, brought to you by Pacific Office Automation.